Simone Biles is a 24-year-old American gymnast who's already won over 30 Olympic and world champion medals. Now, she's also been labeled as one of the best gymnasts of all time. That's how good she is. Now, on her Instagram story a couple of days ago, she made a post asking people for their unpopular opinions, and she got one that said that abortion is wrong. And she responded to the claim in a post where she wrote, "I already know that this is going to start the biggest arguments and may even lose followers, but I'm very much pro-choice. Your body, your choice. Also, for everyone going to say just put it up for adoption, it's not that easy, and coming from someone who was in the foster care system, trust me, the foster care system is broken and it's tough, especially on kids and young adults who age out. And adoption is expensive, I'm just saying. And don't even come to me if you couldn't keep a mask on or refuse to wear one." In response to her post, some people took her to be saying that kids in foster care are better off being aborted, and she didn't like that interpretation at all. And she responded to that claim by saying, "Do not misconstrue my words. That is not at all what I implied. I did not say that I support to abort rather than to put them through the foster care system. What I did imply is that you should not control someone else's body/decision. Let's be real, what you care about is control." All right, so a couple of quick thoughts about this. First off, I just want to start by saying that I have friends who's grown up in foster care homes and had really hard times as well. So I believe her when she talks about how it isn't easy for some of the kids who grew up in foster care homes. So I can understand where she's coming from when she talks about what it's like for kids in the foster care system. I also want to say real quick that I also empathize with the mothers who find themselves in situations where they even have to consider the thought of abortion or adoption, which is another unfortunate truth about reality. Now, given that I understand her position correctly, I think that she would probably say that it's not really a question about abortion or not, because I assume that she wouldn't classify abortion as an optimal solution either. The question seems to be more along the lines of how abortion compares to other non-optimal options. So she seems to be arguing that alternatives to having a child, like putting children through foster care, isn't an optimal solution, and that women should be able to choose times when abortion can be a better alternative. And I think we can all agree that foster care isn't an optimal solution to an unwanted pregnancy. But when I read what she wrote about abortion, my first thought was about what the world would be like if Simone's mom decided to abort Simone. We wouldn't have this beautiful and talented black woman who became a world-class athlete. I think if there was a choice between Simone not being here or Simone being in a foster home as a child and eventually joining the Olympics, I think that most of us, including probably Simone herself, would choose the foster home scenario. So although we all agree that it clearly wasn't optimal for her to be in the foster care system, her being in a foster home was still a vehicle that allowed her to be here today as an Olympic star. Now, of course, that's not to say that the foster care system isn't messed up and doesn't need reform, but both things can be true at the same time. Now, here's something else to consider. So although Simone has had a tough childhood in the foster care system, she was still able to overcome it because of the incredible hard work that she put in. She's literally one of the best gymnasts in history ever. We're all proud of her for what she's accomplished, but once we found out that she had to overcome a tough childhood in the foster care system, that made her story far more inspirational to us. She knows the richness of pushing through tough situations and how much more beautiful it is having worked hard through all of the tough stuff in order to get to where she is today. So given this, it seems that she can also understand that the same thing is true when it comes to raising children in difficult situations. And I think that Simone would actually agree that mothers who choose to do the hard work rather than taking an easy way out, they've accomplished something far more valuable than things like gold medals. But for the sake of the argument, let's just go ahead and say that they're all equally valid options, from abortion to foster care systems and so on. I think at this point is when we can start considering the gist behind her claim when she says, "Your body, your choice." Now, although I do sympathize with her sentiment when it comes to the claim about not letting other people control someone else's body, but I'm not sure if she realizes that pro-choice advocates are arguing for that same thing as well. You see, the fetus inside of the mother has 10 fingers and 10 toes and has its own unique DNA fingerprint and so on. Obviously, a woman doesn't have 20 fingers and toes and 2 heartbeats just because she becomes pregnant. The point is, that's quite literally a separate body from the mother inside of her, and pro-life advocates are trying to protect their bodies since the owners of the bodies can't speak for themselves. So when you think about it that way, pro-choice advocates are arguing for the same principle that pro-life advocates are arguing for, but the pro-life advocates believe that the bodies of those who can't speak for themselves are also just as valuable. And if you believe believe that a woman has a right to what happens over her body, imagine if termination were on the table. Now, a lot more can be said, of course, and although I'm a Christian, in this video, I've been speaking from a purely practical perspective instead of a religious one, and there's a reason for that. Now, I've made other videos where I talk about this topic from a biblical standpoint, but there's also those like Senator Raphael Warnock who disagree with me from a biblical perspective. Warnock calls himself a biblically based Matthew 25 Christian, but does his case make any sense? Is it more of a political justification rather than a biblical one? Well, go ahead and click on this video to find out. But the next time you hear someone arguing that someone has a right to their own body, but at the same time they deny other human bodies the same freedom, what are you gonna say?